In 1854, under urgent orders from Washington, D.C., the Navy began construction of Mare Island Navy Base in San Francisco Bay. Almost immediately, a gang of outlaws began intercepting supplies to resell them in Seattle. It got so bad, the commodore called for help to escort the monthly payroll to the base. We used a new trail. The route was supposed to be secret.
Californians.
California, I've come to live where life is best. In the Golden West, I'm gonna strike it rich in California. California.
Ship's in, sir. Here's the dispatches from Washington.
What happened, Marshal?
Ambushed. 3 miles out of town. One of your men was wounded.
They got the payroll, of course.
Of course. Do you think the Navy has sprung a leak, Commodore?
What do you mean by that?
I was personally in charge of that payroll. The time and the route were closely guarded secrets from everyone. Everybody but the bandits, that is.
Are you insinuating that...
You sent for me, Father?
Yes, come in. This is Marshal Wayne. Marshal, my son David.
David?
Marshal Wayne, I've heard a lot about you. Sorry to hear what happened to you, sir.
Oh, so am I.
I have good news, David. Your papers arrived this morning. Come and sit down and sign them. David is going to attend the new Naval Academy at Annapolis. It's developing into a fine school, Matt. I wish I could have gone there.
I'm sorry, Father, I can't.
What?
You know I don't want to go to the naval school. I don't want to go to sea.
We'll discuss this later, David. Wait in there.
Yes, sir. Marshal Wayne, sir?
Has some silly notion he wants to be a rancher up in Oregon Territory.
Oh? What's silly about that?
His mother and I had planned a Navy career for him. Unfortunately, she died 2 years ago. Being father and mother both, like fighting a war on two fronts. But let's go back to our war. Are you insinuating that someone in my command is working with the outlaws?
All I'm saying is that if I had that kind of luck in a poker hand, I'd ask for a look at the deck.
Marshal, I can personally vouch for every man in my command. Can you say the same for your San Francisco policeman?
I can vouch for the 2 I appointed.
2 out of 50.
That's all I'm allowed to. By law, the city council appoints the rest.
If there's a rotten apple, it's in your barrel, not mine.
I don't care whose barrel it's in. I'm gonna find it.
David, come in here. Now, what is this about you refusing to go to Navy school? Explain yourself.
I just don't want to go.
Our family has always had a Navy background. Now, you don't break a tradition like that through some boyish whim.
I am not a boy.
The fact that you have to shave twice a week does not make you a man.
I suppose the Navy uniform will turn the trick.
If you earn the right to wear one, it will, yes.
Well, what's wrong with being a rancher?
You have to be a man to be a rancher. In the first place, you have to have land, and what have you done about getting land, except talk about it? This is just your excuse to escape Navy discipline.
That's not so, and I'll prove it to you.
I'm eager to be convinced, David. Believe me.
That afternoon, I dropped by the quarterdeck and bought the Navy some drinks. The Commodore's officers seemed to be a steady-going bunch, all married except one. He was a chess player. Maybe the Commodore was right. Maybe the apple was in my barrel. I gave up for the day and dropped in to pick up my laundry.
$5, please.
All right, Lee.
Thank you.
See you next week. The last place I'd expect to find a clue. And there, naturally, I found it. On a barrel. Can I borrow these, young man? Yeah. Thanks. Lee, these saddlebags, where'd your son get them?
From me.
Oh? Where'd you get them?
I find them
Where?
in alley.
What alley?
Alley behind bowling house, where I deliver my laundry.
Whose house?
Mr. James Bowling, big gambling man. Anything wrong, Marshal?
No. Thanks very much, Lee.
Son? Who's been sitting on this wheel?
I think the fog's got it rusty, Mrs. Vansler.
Better oil it then. I don't want anyone accusing the El Dorado of operating a rusty wheel. Oh, Matt Wayne. When did you get in?
A few hours ago.
A drink?
Thanks.
Oh, son, get a tall, cool drink for Marshal Wayne. But why I'm buying you a free drink, I can't imagine.
Why, what's the matter?
You may recall that we were going sailing in the bay this morning. I even fried a chicken.
Yes, well, I was busy getting my brains knocked out.
Good. By whom?
Somebody who knew I was carrying the Navy payroll.
Oh, I didn't know you were convoying the Navy payroll.
That eliminates you as a suspect. Now, you weren't supposed to know. Nobody's supposed to know except me, Navy Lieutenant and Commodore Cameron.
Why don't you let the Commodore run his own risks?
What have you got against the Commodore?
I don't like the way he treats his son.
David? What's he to you?
Well, I met him and his mother about 2 years ago coming out here. In Panama. I was with Mrs. Cameron when she died. And I've been seeing quite a bit of David. He comes in here quite often.
To gamble?
No, to talk. The poor kid's lonesome. His father's a bully.
Why do you say that?
Well, David wants to be a rancher. And his father insists that he joins the Navy.
All of which is none of your business, but I didn't come in here to chat about David. Do you know a gambler by the name of Bolin?
Yeah, he's a crook. I had him thrown out here about 3 months ago.
Any idea where he might be now?
He works this Lucky 7. What about him?
I have him to thank for a cracked skull, I believe.
Be careful, he's dangerous.
Yes, he proved that this morning. You know where I can find a man named Bolin?
Lose again, son?
You know I did.
Maybe you'd better quit bucking the game.
That's why I pay you off.
Doesn't take cash for that. Let's have a drink. Does your father forbid it?
Do you man a hand?
Well, what's new at Mare Island?
Nothing.
Oh, there must be something new. Such as the old cat had kittens, or most of the mates got a new girlfriend. Is a new shipment due in or out of the place? Something might interest me.
Don't you ever get enough?
Of course not. I'm greedy.
Why don't you lay low for a while?
I can't afford it. I gotta support my poor old mother. I ask you a question, kid.
I'm not going to give you any more tips.
Oh, yes, you are. Else I'll have to tell your father how deep you're into me, and he'd take you over his knee and spank you. And you wouldn't want that to happen, would you, kid?
Quit calling me kid.
That's what you are. Kid. Scared kid. Afraid of your father. Not half as much as you are of me.
That's a lie.
Oh, is it? Calling you a kid and a coward to your teeth. What are you going to do about it? That's better. How about the answer to that question?
I want to talk to you.
A drink for the marshal.
No thanks.
Have you been to the Lucky Seven?
Yes. This boy, David Cameron. What do you know about him?
I told you about him this morning.
I thought you said he didn't gamble.
He doesn't. Oh, he did once, the first time he came in here. He lost $100, and I gave it back to him and sent him home. He came back the next day and thanked me. We talked about his mother, and he's been coming back ever since.
Looks as though you're taking his mother's place.
I feel sorry for him.
Well, so do I, if what I suspect about him is true. I saw him at the Lucky Seven. He was gambling with Bolin. David lost, and the two of them got up and went off together, and I asked around, and people said that they've been seen together a lot recently.
That doesn't prove he's done anything wrong.
Maybe it doesn't to you, but I think it will to his father. Your customers need you. I think I owe you an apology, Commodore. I checked your officers. They're 100% loyal.
So it was one of your own men, eh?
No, it wasn't one of my men.
Well, there was a leak. You convinced me of that.
Oh, there was a leak, all right.
You're certainly not pointing your finger at me.
Not at you, Commodore.
Nobody else had access to this office, except my son.
That's what I mean.
My son? David? Bosun,
Yes, sir.
I'm going to my room. Show Marshal Wayne off the premises.
Take your hands off me.
Now look, you better come along or the old man will have you hung from the yardarm.
Oh, hello, Marshal. Waiting to see my father?
No, David, I'm not. Come on in. As a matter of fact, I just had quite an argument with your father.
Oh, what about?
I don't know how it could have been so wrong. I had a notion that one of his officers might be acting as a spy for these payroll bandits.
Oh?
His officers are 100%, just as he claimed them to be. It's funny how things work out. I never would have suspected who it was.
You think you know who the spy is?
Yes. This morning, somebody said he was awfully sorry to hear what had happened to me. And later, I remembered that, and I thought, how would this person possibly know what had happened to me unless he himself were involved? David, how did you know what had happened to me? How did you get involved with this, Mr. Bolin?
Before I knew what happened, I'd lost 500 more to Bolin. It was about time work started at Mare Island. I couldn't pay. I couldn't have Bolin going to my father. So he made me tell him when the shipments were due.
Bosun. Bosun,
Yes, sir.
Place that man under arrest.
I'll need reinforcements, sir.
I mean my son.
No, you don't.
Have Lieutenant Saunders write an order for my signature. My resignation from the United States Navy.
David, why did you do it?
Because I wanted to get away from my father. Mrs. Fansler, please lend me $300. There's a boat leaving tomorrow. I'll pay it back, I promise.
David, it's not the money. I'd give you $500 if I thought it would do any good, but it would only make things worse.
But what'll I do?
Go to Matt Wayne.
She's right, David.
I suppose you've come to arrest me.
Any reason why I shouldn't?
Yes. It wasn't his fault. It was Boland. I told you he wasn't any good.
I'll take care of him later. Right now, I'm interested in Commodore Cameron.
I suppose he sent out the shore patrol after me. I needed the money to get away from him. Always bossing me, treating me like one of his deckhands.
Try to raise David by Navy rules and regulations.
Yes, rules of honor and integrity. Because all of his life has been one of service to his country. But all that's ruined for him now. Feel proud of yourself, David?
You're not blaming David, are you?
Oh, no. No, I'm not blaming him. I'm standing here admiring him. He didn't want to go to naval school, but instead of arguing it out man-to-man with his father, he decided to run away. But he didn't have the courage to make it on his own. He had to have an easy way.
Matt.
Wait. Instead of working to make a living, you gambled. But you couldn't take the consequences. You had to sell out your father, betray your country, and turn its goods over to thieves. Lucky thing for you, there wasn't a killing. You'd also be a murderer. Instead of what you are, a lying, sneaking, thieving little coward.
Don't you dare talk to David that way.
All right, I'll let him talk for himself.
Marshal, I could kill you. But you're right. I never looked at it that way before. It was always easier blaming my father. Oh, what a mess I've made of my life.
Your father's also. All right, David, what are you going to do about it? Feel sorry for yourself, as usual? Or cry on Mrs. Fansler's shoulder, or go meekly off to jail with me?
Aren't you arresting me?
What was the latest information you gave Mr. Boland?
It was today. There's a cargo of rifles leaving for Vallejo in the morning.
Where does he plan to intercept them?
Near Black Rock.
David? You ever drive a wagon and a team?
Yes. Why?
Well, it seems to me that Mr. Boland stole a lot from you. Your manhood, for one thing. Wouldn't you like to meet him at Black Rock tomorrow and get it back from him?
But Boland's a killer,
Yes?
But he's never killed anyone more than once. Do you think I'd really have a chance, Marshal?
If you bribed the driver, I think you could.
You're sending him to his death.
Giving him a chance to live with himself.
It's horrible of you calling him a coward.
I think he's gonna make a liar out of me.
Where are you going?
Maybe for a buggy ride.
You might get killed, too.
Well, if I do, fry up another chicken. We'll go for that sail on the bay.
Awesome. Get my wrap and gloves, quickly.
Just a moment, I'll have to announce you.
It's imperative that I see him. Am I glad I found you?
Huh? Who are you?
Mrs. Wilma Fansler, that's who. I run a gambling house where your son's been spending his time.
In gambling, no doubt.
No, he had to talk to someone. Look, he's not a sailor. He hates the sea. He belongs on land. Can't you see that? Your wife knew better if you don't.
What do you know of my wife?
We were on the same ship from Norfolk, coming out here. She talked about nothing else but you and David. Why do you think she was coming out here? To talk some sense into you.
Then you were with my wife in Panama?
Yes.
Is that why the boy is coming to you?
He had to take his problems to somebody.
I was always ready to listen.
You were too busy talking. Of course, Matt Wayne thinks I'm wrong for sympathizing with him. But Matt's a man, stubborn as you are. It might cost his life by morning.
What do you mean?
He and David are going to deliver those rifles in Vallejo. They're going to trap the bandits.
Why in the world didn't you tell me that earlier?
I don't want you to be killed, too. All I want you to do is be reasonable with David when he comes back. Commander,
That's where they'll be.
All right. But be on your toes. And make sure you shoot straight.
But the boy is unarmed.
You fire a pretty good broadside for a civilian, son.
As Matt Wayne said, he stole something from me. I think maybe I've got some of it back.
And you're not hurt?
Nothing to speak of.
In that case, I have to turn you over to Marshal Wayne. Are you ready, son?
I'm ready, Father.
what do you mean by getting me up at 10 o'clock in the morning?
I thought you might like to read the good news.
I was at the trial.
That's only half the story. Judge put David on probation.
Oh, I'm glad. I know he'll be all right. All he needs is to get away from his father.
The Navy refused to accept the Commodore's resignation.
Wonderful.
And David has been paroled in his father's custody.
Oh, Matt, that's terrible.
That's wonderful.
You mean the Commodore isn't going to make him join the Navy?
He won't have to. David's enlisted.
No.
Now that he's proven to himself that he's a man, he decided he might like a Navy career.
What's that?
A picnic basket. I fried a chicken.
Oh, Matt.
California. Oh, I've traveled here, I've traveled there. I guess I've been most everywhere. But I like where I am today, and here is where I'll stay. Now, one thing I just can't endure is being broke and being poor. So I come west to take the cure, and here is where I'll stay. I've come to California, California.